Howdy again, this is Steve Spillett, President of CDS Community Development Strategies. Welcome back to The Point with CDS. Again, I'm joined by my colleagues Mike Pratz and Ty Jacobson. Our topic this time is retail, which had several years ago was being described as apocalyptic, right, by the media, and that was always overblown. A lot of change was occurring. Retail's had to adapt a lot, and there's been significant evolution, but it hardly went away, and in fact, it's considered one of the healthiest land uses at the present time in terms of commercial real estate. I just want to talk about first sort of some of the perception of what constitutes an anchor, right? Because that's always been one of the big deals for retail development is what kind of anchor do you have? And that's really changed because as I was growing up, traditionally that was some sort of department store. If you're a mall or if you're a big strip center, there were some standalone department type stores, general merchandise stores, and that was seen as that's what you needed to really make your retail development work. And that's changed a lot, not least because many department stores have hit really hard times or gone out of business altogether. And other kinds of users of retail space have proven to be significant generators of traffic. We've seen dining and entertainment surged. It was surging before the pandemic. The pandemic kind of put the kibosh on that for a couple years, but it's really been coming back quite strongly. And then we've also seen a lot of other users coming into retail space that can serve as certain types of anchors like health and wellness. And so I'll let you all comment on what you've seen in terms of the evolution and what constitutes an anchor.
Well, retail, among all of the land uses we deal with here at CDS, it's so heavily tied to consumer trends and the notion of where do we shop, how do we shop, what do we shop for, and certain things like dining and entertainment. Dining and entertainment is not a new thing, not a new retail use, but it is one in which trends are probably the most pronounced and happen most quickly in. And so you think about, I used to eat at this restaurant when I was a kid, and they don't have them anymore. They don't hardly have them anymore, or people don't eat that type of food at a restaurant anymore. They eat something else though. There's no shortage of restaurant chains out there, and they go up and they go down and go up and go down, and very, very few restaurant chains. You talk about department stores that are not healthy or completely gone. Think about restaurant chains, and you can name how many more, right, that don't exist anymore, or shells of their former self, in ways that
and they had been mainstays and they're gone.
Right, that you can even fathom with other types of retail. So as far as sort of what constitutes an anchor, a lot of it is, some of it's a real estate question of the type of center that is getting built these days. And the stores that have traditionally been anchors, departments, general merchandise, discounters, and grocery stores, the type of real estate that they're looking to move into is different than it once was. They're looking to move into larger space. There's sort of this, we talk about missing middle in housing, whereas there's sort of a missing middle in retail, and it's being driven by market trends of grocers that want larger stores, discounters that want larger stores. In some cases, they don't want to be an anchor of a center. In some cases, they do, but the center needs to be particularly large. We're not talking this sort of neighborhood level retail of any size. Neighborhood level retail has gone very small. Often involves pad sites or just small space that's leased out to local operators, which is good. It's useful and you need it there. But if you're also looking to buy groceries, clothes, other types of general merchandise, those types of stores are harder to find at that neighborhood level because they need more space, or they demand more space, perhaps you could say, than is being provided at neighborhood level retail centers now. And therefore they move out to the highway or move out to whatever the big center that's closest to the large grocery store, the Walmart. Those centers as well, they're looking to draw more regionally. They're looking to draw regionally with people who come for pickup with things they ordered online, or even using those stores as that sort of last mile. They ship the product to the store, then that gets from delivery from the store itself to the home. And so they don't need as many locations, or they don't need to put locations in relatively speaking, lower traffic areas. So, the point I would say is that it's almost a real estate question, that missing middle that has disappeared, and perhaps we'll explore in maybe another video why that happened and how it can come back. But I think we need to know that it's not really being built right now.
I think the question of what constitutes an anchor may be, changing. I think it's been, and maybe I'm wrong, but correct me if I am, it's based on how the center is financed, right? That who the anchor,
yes.
and it was when I was an intern at Urban Land Institute in 2007 that I read the Dollars and Cents book that I didn't understand. I didn't even know that the anchor pays less per square foot
Sometimes no rent.
than everyone else in the whole center.
Sure.
Yeah, sometimes the anchor gets free rent. So
Well, in some cases they even own their site itself. This is the way most malls were constructed, is that the anchor was basically, because it was so important to the construction of the mall,
Macy's would own their own
given
own store.
site, their
Dillard's
store.
would own its own store. Sears would own its own store.
Which for unhealthy malls has been a bit of a challenge for redevelopment,
Right.
because they have to reacquire. The mall operator may want to redevelop a
It's not a
Sears
single
that is
property.
closed, but they don't own it.
So how much does the financing paradigm influence the physical layout of the center and who or where the anchor goes? And I think when that changes, when the way that we finance retail, commercial, retail real estate, maybe when the financing adjusts and the paradigm shifts, then maybe we can get different types of tenants or different types of centers or different types of retail, more innovative retail spaces than what we're typically used to in this conveyor belt kind of financing, apparatus of,
Your credit tenants that are typically regional or national chains, and you can find them all over the place already. There's nothing that's going to make that place unique.
right.
Right.
And I think we're seeing more retail developers really realize that people were getting a little tired of that, and consumers are seeking the unique, the local, independent businesses. They're bringing a twist or something new, experience-wise, or what they're selling, or what they're giving you to eat, etc. And there's more effort now being placed into trying to attract those and get them in. Financially, though, as you're pointing out, it's a challenge, because the lenders who provide that financing to the retail developers want to see their credit tenants. They want to know that these are businesses that are going to survive, that even if they have a downtime, they're still going to be able to pay their rent, which is often not the case for startup or independent or mom and pop type businesses. So I think that's still being worked out. A lot of those businesses, those more unique and local independent businesses, therefore really need to find second generation space, that might be a little more affordable to them. Or if it's a dining use, the kitchen already exists, the grease trap is already there, and so they don't have the upfront capital expenditures to get in. And so the problem with that right now is the retail space, as I said, it's actually one of the healthier commercial land uses, and space is really, really tight. I'm looking at some data from Transwestern showing that Houston has the highest level of retail vacancy in Texas, and as of the fourth quarter of 2023, it was still only 4.5%.
Oh my goodness.
You go to
Wow.
Austin, it's only 2.8% at that time. So, I mean, just finding space is a real challenge right now. So, as I said, retail is considered quite healthy. Finding sites for new retail development, which is needed as the population continues to grow in the Texas metros quite rapidly, has been proven a challenge too. You're going to see most of your retail space growth out in the outer reaches where there's raw land available. I think what we're hearing from developers in the city is that retail sites in desirable locations, financially, it's really difficult to do a retail only development.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to generate enough value to offset the price of the land. And so you're seeing to compensate for that, you're seeing interesting types of reuse. You mentioned the 99-cent store, those going out of businesses. We're also having Family Dollars that are going to be closing here. That was also announced. So you're going to have these retail boxes, if you will, that for a while you saw the bigger the box, oh gosh, how are we going to reuse that? Well, I think the pressures of the constrained amounts of vacant space, we are seeing reuse of those vacant boxes now.
Right.
And,
Well, it's almost, I think, when we think about new types of vacant boxes, the dollar store, the small format discounter, like Family Dollar, 99-cent only stores, you know, which occupy the space that a grocery store might have occupied 50 years ago, kind of this 10 to 20, 25,000 square foot space. These are, we now have to think about drug stores as well. We're not seeing quite the proliferation of them. How do you reuse those? How do you reuse those spaces instead of requiring a new type of creativity that we, you know, I think in the recent past we had to apply to what we call a big box space.
That brings up my favorite real estate conversion is the pharmacy to Michoacan.
That's been a very effective one in Houston.
Yeah.
We have another one not too far from the office here. They turned what used to be a Walgreens pharmacy into a convenience store for a gas station. They don't use all of it.
Yeah.
I think they hope to lease some other space in it.
Yeah.
But that's a very creative conversion. I was very happy to see that.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we talked about dining and entertainment emerging as anchors, and in some cases we're seeing those merge, and they actually sometimes can make use of those boxes. You have this proliferation now. We'll see how long this trend lasts, but this proliferation of combination restaurants with like pickleball, right?
Mhm.
Well, you need space for that, right?
It's useful for-
And so, you know, that could represent sort of a potential second generation user of some of these empty boxes left over from the retail businesses that have fallen on hard times and closed up. We are we're watching this evolution, the apocalypse. Don't pay any attention to that language anymore. I think consumers need to spend or want to spend, and we're going to see new ways of retail space being used, new users going in retail space. And my final point is that work from home, I think, is also driving changes in occupancy in retail centers that are located in heavily residential areas, because the more you're home, the more you want to have access to various kinds of goods and services during the day that maybe you didn't need near your home before. And so we're seeing more health, wellness, medical uses coming in. We may see services that are, certain small office users actually go into retail space as well, because now that more people are home during the day, a greater range or a different range of potential occupants might be interested in some of those spaces. Well, I think that concludes our video on retail space, and we will see you again next time. Thanks so much for joining us.